Tomorrow will come and girl, I can't wait. It's our anniversary.
Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Oh man, it's his anniversary. 1 year report card. So what is going on out there, peeps? Let's take a look and see how Al-Sudani and his cabinet have done during his time in office over this past year, shall we? Iraq's Al-Sudani's government 1 year later. It's been an eventful year for Iraq, I'd say so. With mixed results, but on a balance, the Prime Minister has navigated it with relative stability. We love stability. Last week marked 1 year since he took office. His accession to his role came after a year of deep political tensions, several alarming but contained episodes of violence, and no annual government budget. A political agreement amongst the Shiite coalition known as a coordinating framework and major Kurdish and Sunni Arab parties set the stage for Al-Sudani's government to form. Meanwhile, the biggest winner in 2021 parliamentary election, clerk and political leader Sadr, decided to withdraw from political process altogether. Well, he won, there's no doubt about that, but couldn't get a cabinet together. He had the wrong people interfering with him, and I was pulling for him, but I'm glad he didn't win, come to find out. I thought he would be a better fit for Iraq. I'm really pleasantly surprised at what Al-Sudani's been able to do so far, considering who he's working with. He said Al-Sudani has fared in Iraq's fractured political environment, examines the status of the government's ambitious economic and development agenda, and looks at how Iraq is currently navigating the developments in Gaza. So how has Al-Sudani managed the tension and fractured political environment he inherited? Very strategically is a good way to put it. But Al-Kadhimi did a great job too. He's actually loved by all. So, it's surprising he's not there. The only people that didn't love him, of course, was Maliki, because he went after Maliki for all his crimes. On balance, the glass half full view, Al-Sudani's first year as prime minister can be viewed favorably, but one has to look beyond his performance to get a fuller view of the dynamics surrounding him and what they may mean for the future stability in the country. Even though he was relatively unknown to many both inside and outside of Iraq before becoming prime minister, he gradually built an image for himself as a leader who was serious, pragmatic, and willing to work with all sides. In short, someone you could do business with. In this, he is being met halfway by key interlocutors' action. After withdrawing from the political process, Sadr has not challenged the Al-Sudani government as he had Al-Sudani's predecessor, although the situation in Gaza may change that. Yeah, I hope not. I can see already Sadr is, really drawing a lot of attention over there in Iraq. He is pissed about what's going on, and he is asking for a more aggressive approach, I guess is the best way to put it. And even though Al-Sudani's government could not meet their commitments on timelines for deliverables, such as passing a national oil and gas law and amending amnesty laws, the interested political actors, the Kurds and the Sunni Arabs, mostly held the lack of progress against the political coalition that brought Al-Sudani to office rather than against the prime minister himself. The Sunni Arabs, the Kurds, and Iraq's ethnic and regional minorities hope to address their issues through Al-Sudani rather than challenge him, and they fear the failure of his government could bring greater adverse consequences at the hand of actors that would push a more extreme political security and economic agenda against them. Iraqi youth, who have been at the forefront of several major protest movements in recent years, are more skeptical and cynical about Al-Sudani, both in terms of meeting their aspirations and his ability to operate beyond the restrictions that his political coalition puts him on. Yeah, you see, that was always a concern that I had about Al-Sudani's government, that the coordinating framework would just really keep him on a tight leash and make life hell for him, considering they're the ones that are the cause of most of the corruption that takes place over there in Iraq. But with him passing the budget like he has, asking for infrastructure to take place, I'm hoping that the youth will be a little more relaxed about what's going on out there in Iraq. Iraq passed a 3-year budget in June, what could give Al-Sudani, his backing coalition, and the country some budgetary continuity, predictability, and stability going forward. However, it could also embolden certain political factors to feel they no longer need the Sunni Arabs or Kurds since they already formed the government, passed the budget, and ensured a degree of acceptability for the government domestically and externally. See, that's what I said. Once his budget is actually passed, then we're going to see the true colors of the people around Al-Sudani. This is where Iraq would risk going back to instability, especially if you overlay some other developments, such as in the federal Supreme Court invalidating a Kurdistan regional oil and gas law, and later the parliament of the Kurdish region itself. So it wasn't just the oil and gas law they invalidated, but also the parliament, the Supreme Court saying that the parliament is not going to be recognized over Kurdistan. Additionally, pressure tactics on the Speaker of the Council of Representatives have suggested he could lose his office. There lies a chronic Iraqi challenge, a positive agenda being undermined by narrow pursuit of power in different political circles. Well, we know at one time, Maliki tried to become the current Saddam Hussein of Iraq. Literally, he tried to take over the entire country. So now that all these things have played out, I'm curious to see what lies ahead for Iraq. I'm thinking positive thoughts, no bad juju. Al-Sudani so far has done a wonderful job of doing what he needs to keep everybody in check and keeping everybody on an even kill. He says Iraq has begun playing a large role in the Middle East, both diplomatically and economically. How has Al-Sudani navigated regional tensions between Iran and the Arab states? Indeed, Iraq has played an important role in Iran's, Saudi, and other reproachable efforts in the Middle East for a few years now. As Prime Minister, Al-Sudani has continued on the path towards regional integration and collaborative engagement. He has promoted what he calls productive diplomacy, meaning that he seeks economic and other interests beyond simply good relations. Even more, the Al-Sudani government's economic agenda connects domestic and foreign policy ambitions. They have leveraged the relative political stability and security of the current moment to pursue the development road, a project that promotes Iraq as a dry canal of ports, highways, and railways that connect Asia to Europe, as ambitious and big a vision as other countries in the region. That's really going to open up the trade doors for Iraq, and I don't think that project's going to take that long. Again, everything for some reason is wrapping up right around 2025. Iraq has also signed contracts with General Electric, Total Energies, Siemens, and others to improve energy production domestically while sharing a piece of the economic pie. The Al-Sudani governments support the financing the Al-Muhandis company, and connecting Iraq and Iran by rail might be seen as entrenching Iran's interests and agenda. Remember, there is an agreement for them to build a railway between each other, which are often viewed as malign by many Iraqi citizens, neighbors, and Western supporters. But another view might be that this move is part of a pragmatic approach to portray Iraq as a web of mutually beneficial economic interests in the region. That's why whoever the leader is, they're going to have to be able to delicately handle all these situations, because it's not the first time that Iran is trying to take over Iraq. They're trying to turn them into an Islamic state. In his first year, Al-Sudani has had to work with Iran and Kurdistan regional leadership to prevent further Iranian missiles and drone attacks on Iranian opposition based in Iraq. Khormor gas field was attacked multiple times, with fingers pointing to Iran and its proxies attempting to hamper Kurdish and Iraq's aspirations to become a player in the global gas markets. Relations with Turkey is also a mix of working through difficult portfolios, including the expansion of Turkish military attacks against Iraq, against the Kurdish Working Party, water issues, oil exports via CIN, trade, and construction. Furthermore, Iraq's federal Supreme Court ruling that a 2012 Iraq-Kuwait maritime agreement was unconstitutional raised alarms amongst Gulf neighbors regarding Iraq's commitment to its obligations. So as you can clearly see, Iraq's federal Supreme Court, in which the leader of that court is friends with Maliki, is really making it difficult for Al-Sudani to do his jobs. He's pissing off people in Kurdistan, he's pissing off people in Kuwait, and not making life very easy for Al-Sudani. But Al-Sudani, in my opinion, is doing pretty decent. How has the Israel-Hamas war played out in Iraq? Historically, Iraq has been an active supporter of the Palestinians and has not recognized Israel. When Saudi originally pursued a Majorian government after the 2021 election, his political opponents, many of whom are now in a government coalition, suggested that Saudi was implementing a scheme backed by Israel and the United States. Saudi responded by sponsoring and ensuring the passage of legislation that would criminalize normalization with Israel, which carried a penalty of capital punishment or life in prison. Capital punishment, you're going to get killed. Given the past, it's not surprising that Iraq has taken a strong and vocal stance in support of the Palestinians now, and developments in Gaza have unleashed reactions on multiple fronts. Al-Sudani participated in the Cairo Summit for Peace, expressing unwavering support for the Palestinians, denounced Israel's actions in strong terms, called for a ceasefire, and sent humanitarian assistance. He also spoke with Joe Biden, Anthony Blinken, and Lloyd Austin about these developments. Meanwhile, armed groups attacked Iraq military bases hosting U.S. military personnel in Anbar, Baghdad, Erbil provinces, causing injuries to U.S. service members and one fatality due to cardiac arrest. Similar attacks occurred in U.S. military targets in Syria. The United States believes Iran supports those attacks and conducted airstrikes in Syria in response. Members of the Popular Mobilization Force blocked the transfer of Iraq oil to Jordan as a form of economic pressure, given Jordan has normalized relations with Israel. That's part of the Abraham Accords, I believe, that President Trump was working on. Besides Al-Sudani, a number of other prominent Iraqi figures have publicly weighed in on the situation. In a statement, Al-Sudani stressed the need to end the suffering of the Palestinians and support their rights, otherwise violence would not end. Al-Sadr's public posture has unfolded incrementally, starting with calls for prayers in solidarity with the Palestinians. This was followed up by calls for organized public protests in Iraq, which occurred, and for peaceful protests on the Lebanese side of the Israel-Lebanon border. Most recently, Sadr called on the Al-Sudani government and the council representatives to close the U.S. embassy, albeit without attacking diplomats, while Al-Sadr's position might be seen as a way to get payback on his political opponents and the United States for the pressure he faced in 2021. Some Iraqi elected officials have taken up this call, and a letter calling for the special session to vote on the closure of the U.S. embassy has already gained signatures in the Council of Representatives. So these developments further complicate an already fraught situation for Al-Sudani. Iraq and the United States have been trying to pressure a common agenda under Al-Sudani's government, and Al-Sudani has been given a standing invitation to the White House, a visit that was generally expected to come before the end of the year, but whose timing now seems uncertain given unfolding events. What's the outlook for Al-Sudani's second year in office? Looking ahead for the second year of Al-Sudani's term, he possesses the important ingredients to proceed with key economic developments and diplomatic agendas that would solidify his position, stabilize the government, and bolster Iraq's progress. These are the words we want to hear. He has the tools to do it, but can he get the support? However, key tests are also on the way. Political impact on the Israel-Hamas war still unfolding, and attacks on U.S. military personnel have added another wrinkle to the situation. But Al-Sudani publicly defended the U.S. troops by stating they were in Iraq at the invitation of the Iraqi government. The fight against corruption and illicit drugs, concerns about shrinking civil space and human rights, the return and reintegration of displaced Iraqis from places such as a camp in Syria, and the impact on climate change will remain on the radar of Iraq's various stakeholders. The outcome of the province elections this December coming up, let's see if they will go forward with the election. Let's see if Al-Sudani can get back in office. This will be a major insight into the mood of the Iraqi people and who undoubtedly factor into Sadr's next political move. Meanwhile, the stability of the economy and the value of the Iraqi dinar, political partners continue patience with the slow implementation of commitments. The actions of regional countries, primarily Iran, and the international community's level of engagement will all help determine the course of Al-Sudani's government's second year in office and the trajectory of Iraq overall. Given all of the circumstances, I would give Al-Sudani definitely a B-. To be honest, I thought it was going to be a lot worse than this. But like I said, once the budget has been passed, we're going to start to see people's true colors. So the second year is going to tell us a whole lot about Al-Sudani. Just when you think you got the right guy in there who seems to be getting everybody on the right path, we have another election coming up again. That's going to tell us everything we need to know. Anyways, that's it for now. Let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. How do you think Al-Sudani has done? Leave a comment down below. I'm out.